Your ancestors were born, they died, and they sometimes got hitched. So let's talk about how we can use newspapers and some keyword combinations to find out the news about those vital events in your ancestors' life. Welcome to Family History Fanatics, where we love to help you climb your family tree and have a whole lot of fun along the way. Before we get to the topic of this video, I want to invite you to check out the links in the description for our free guide to help you do better and more online genealogy research. This one seems a little obvious. Type in your ancestor's surname plus the term born. So with this keyword combination, we're going to look for the surname Lavanway and born in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The birth records, you're finding born, and notice that you need to put in the last name because we have born to Mr. and Mrs. Sherman Lavanway, a son. So there isn't the name of the Sherman son. So look for the last name, and then you might pick it up. Lots of great little birth announcements right there. There are a lot of combinations that you can also try. You can do ancestors christened, ancestors in baptism. Not all baptisms are babies, so be careful. What other terms do you have for when your ancestor was born? Now, one of the ones I've tried is ancestor surname, the surname, not their first name. You won't always find them with their first name, but you can also use cradle roll and nursery. Now, I wanted to highlight this combination of surname plus born, and this is from the Abbeville Press in Abbeville, South Carolina in 1888. So when you start, I found this Simmons and I saw the word born. Alice Simmons, wife of Simmons, born. Simmons, married. Simmons, Simmons' wife, daughter, born. I thought to myself, what is going on? Well, that's when we need to zoom out and answer that question, because I start to see this letter S and a letter R and a D, and I keep climbing over to the left and check out what this says. The Book of the Church. Some of the names which have been recorded therein. In what follows, we give our facts connected with the membership as we could obtain. So this is the origins of the church at Abbeville, which is a Methodist church. So by using surname and born, not only did I pick up a little bit of detail, even though it wasn't 1888 where I found the Simmons being born, 1853. Don't be beholden to the dates of the newspapers for birth dates. You can possibly find birth dates from an earlier time, even marriages from an earlier time, by exploring later dates than you suspected. And then when you start seeing some patterns of James Redding born 1846, again, the newspaper's 1888, then you're starting to see, wait, there's something else I need to be examining in this record. So church records, who knew, in the newspaper. Now, there are a lot of search terms when it comes to getting married. And the first one is surname plus engagement. Remember to use the surname rather than their first name, because you might have more success because they may appear as Miss and their surname, or the daughter of and their parents' name and their surname. So surname plus engagement. Let's see what we can find. Now, when you're looking for an engagement announcement, let me give you a suggestion that you leave off the where a hyphenation break can take place. Now, additionally, there's lots of forms of the words engage, engagement, engaged with an ED at the end. Go ahead and leave that off as a variation of the keyword engaged. Now, in this particular instance, the engagement of Florence Louise McIntosh would have been picked up if I put the word engagement or engaged, but save yourself the headache of trying to figure out which variation it's using and stop there at engaged. Now, after brides get engaged, they sometimes have bridal showers, and you can find a lot of juicy details in these columns to put surname plus shower. Let's take a look. Now, a shower is great. A bridal shower is great. So sometimes you can put in the last name in the word shower. And in this case, we need to go back to the top to figure out when this started writing, because Ostergaard keeps showing up. So the Reverend Duffield unites a couple in marriage. Ms. Georgia Ostergaard, daughter of the late Mr. and Mrs. Emery Ostergaard, and that goes and gives her some more information. She made a pretty picture when we talked about the gown. We love these kind of records. A sister of the bride was her only attendant. But then again, we had the shower. There was a linen shower and evening bridge by Mrs. John J. McAuliffe and Miss Betty Ostergaard. So shower can pick up notices. Now, this one happened to be part of this lengthy marriage story, but don't let that stop you from using the word shower, because sometimes the article will stand alone. Now, bride and bridal make great keywords to add to your ancestor's surname, especially if they're female. But don't be afraid to use it on the men, because they were part of the bridal party. So let's dive in and see what kind of discoveries we make with surname plus bridal. Now, your ancestors were often part of bridal parties, and it wasn't their event. So in this case, I'm looking for the surname Clark plus bridal, and I'm going to go forward using these advanced arrows. And on the 10th one, I found Mrs. Marguerite B. Clark, one of Chicago's most popular teachers, directed the wedding processional. She was attractive in blah, blah, blah. She also held the bridal veil. So she did interact and participate in a wedding. It wasn't hers, but that's how you can pick up when your ancestors were part of other activities. And now, when we scroll to the top, we find that she was part of the Moore body nuptials that happened in Chicago in June 1928. So use that surname plus bridal, not just to find their own bridal party that they had on their own wedding day, but to see how they're participating in someone else's special day. Now, marriages often have weddings, unless your ancestor eloped. We'll come back to that in a minute. So let's try surname plus wedding. Of course, you can use the surname plus wedding combination, and in the Society news pages, this is from 1912 in Baltimore, Maryland. We sometimes can get the couple picture, and a number of other entries. And in this case, we were looking for the Reisman wedding, and there we have it down there. The Bronstein and Reisman wedding, and we have all the details, a sister of the bride and what she wore, a corn-colored satin trimmed with lace and carried white roses. How lovely is that? So use a surname plus wedding. Remember I said your ancestor might have eloped? I have 3 sets of couples in my family tree that eloped. So try surname plus eloped. Now, I found that this search, Rattery eloped, in a time period, the time period's pretty broad, and I didn't locate a specific place. But when I started looking for Rattery eloped, I found a number of articles about a Mr. G. F. Rattery in Delaware, in Tennessee, in Pennsylvania, in Illinois in 1879. Let's go find out what's going on with Mr. G. F. Rattery. Now, in the show notes, I'm going to link to this article, and if you have a newspapers.com subscription, you should be able to read this, but let's give you just a highlight. A fascinating man eloping with 2 sisters in succession a Georgia sensation. And notice this is reprinted in Pennsylvania as the other ones. So let's see. There was the elopement of Miss Nolly Walker, daughter of the Reverend W.C. Walker, with G.F. Rattree, a prominent citizen. 3 months ago, the same young man eloped with the younger sister of Miss Nolly and married her. Fortunately, the bride was under 14 years of age and the marriage contract was set aside. She willingly came home and was sent away to school. And a year since Rattree courted the younger one, he went ahead and eloped with the older sister. So sometimes the elopements are quite sensational and sometimes they're pretty tame. Now, these are just some of the keyword combinations to find vital events for your ancestors, but you might get stuck trying to get their surname to work. So be sure to check out this blog post to find a link in the description that tells you how to work around the OCR errors that misspell your ancestors' names. Now, not all marriages live happily ever after. If you think that might be the case with your ancestor, type in surname plus divorce. Now, this newspaper comes from Scotland. So if you're researching your ancestors across the pond, or if you live in Scotland and have deep Scottish roots, you're going to love that newspapers.com has Scottish newspapers. So in this case, there is a divorce for a John Muirhead. And notice that it actually didn't pick up this Muirhead the first time. It showed up down here. And we have the name of John Muirhead's wife, and then we have how much they were suing him for, when they got married, and the people that are involved in this, their relationship. So they had a child and stuff. So there are a lot of great details in these divorce newspaper articles. So be sure to give that a go if you can't figure out what happened to your ancestor. Try to throw in divorce and see what happens. Now, one great source of family detail is when your ancestor celebrates an anniversary. Don't necessarily get bogged down typing in what year anniversary. Just type in their surname plus anniversary and see what newspapers have to offer. So you don't have to put in a specific year anniversary for your ancestors, but go ahead and put the surname Strawn, in this case, anniversary, to see what comes up. So this is from Princeton in Gibson County in Indiana. This was printed in the Princeton Daily Clarion. Mr. and Mrs. Strawn celebrate their 50th anniversary, and we have the W. Halleck Strawn, well-known anniversary. It talks about what happened at their events, when they were married, home of the parents, that locations. Now you know where they got married 50 years ago. You can also see where she was born. We know her first name and her maiden name and where she was born, and the name of her parents. So these are great articles when you can find it. Additional names of their children and their grandchildren and so forth. Now, far too often, we just look for obituary. What we want to do is put surname plus funeral. And we may pick up some obituaries, but we also might find out the details of an actual funeral. Now, it's not enough to just put in obituary or death. Throw in the funeral, because this isn't a death notice. This isn't quite an obituary notice. This is a funeral notice for William Miller. He was a sub-fireman, which took place yesterday afternoon in Notre Dame Cemetery. And this is from Ottawa, Canada. It was attended by a large number of people. The service was conducted at this church by a certain person, and we talked about the funeral decoration. So don't limit yourself to just death and obituary. Throw in funeral and see what else you can pick up. What other keyword search terms do you use when you're trying to find vital events for your ancestors? Let me know in the comment section. Tips on how to research in newspapers, check out this playlist right here. And if you're ready for something new, check out that one right there.